How to learn fast and make money faster? The simple answer to this is to leverage microlearning, set a goal, and have a stake in the game. The comprehensive answer, however, is far more intriguing. But before we proceed to that, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be updated whenever we upload new videos like this. With that said, let's get back to the content, shall we? Now let us begin with a story. Many of you may not be familiar with Derek Severs. He is a musician, producer, circus performer, entrepreneur, TED speaker, and book publisher, among other things. He gave away the entire proceeds from the sale of his first company, which he sold for $22 million. But the tale about how he learned 2 years worth of Berklee College of Music education in 8 hours is why we're highlighting him. He completed his education in 2 years rather than 4, because he did not follow the usual educational model. Nearly every school in the world follows the Prussian system, which is based on the same principles. It was created about 200 years ago as a method of training young children to be obedient soldiers. They understood they needed more obedient and patriotic citizenry after the Prussian military was crushed in a conflict with France in the early 1800s. They established a mandatory school for all children where they learned how to read, write, and sing about God, among other things. The overarching goal was to instill a sense of responsibility and submission to a higher authority. And that worked out beautifully for Prussia, which is today known as Germany. While not all intents were doubtful, word of this victory spread quickly from Prussia to France, England, and finally the United States. The outcome of this approach was clear: a young population willing to follow orders. They were made for the Industrial Revolution when they had to sit still and perform repetitive duties. From the time you sat at your assigned station to the time the bell rang, school exactly replicated manufacturing industries. The United States adopted the Prussian system in 1840, and in 1892, a group of 10 people defined what and when every American child should learn, and nothing has changed since then. The factory model of education, according to Arne Duncan, the 9th U.S. Secretary of Education, is an inappropriate model for the 21st century. The educational system is designed to be incredibly sluggish. It's based on the lowest common denominator, so that everyone can catch up and no one gets left behind. Other advantages include staying in school longer than necessary, resulting in increased student debt. This leads us back to our Derek Severs story today. He had 8 weeks until the start of college. He came across an advertisement in the newspaper for a music teacher who offered lessons. He got in touch with him and discovered that he was a former Berklee professor. This professor taught Derek all he needed to know to basically skip the first 2 years of college over the course of 4 2-hour sessions. Derek essentially conducted the first in a series of micro-learning sessions. With the objective of completing college 2 times faster and the risk of failing tests, we arrive at today's topic: microlearning. The current pace is for chumps, Derek's mentor says. Everyone learns in their own way. The key point here is that education is very personalized. To be effective, it must be tailored to the individual, which is the polar opposite of how things are now done. The founder of the Khan Academy, Sal Khan, clearly illustrates how this technique works. Traditionally, you enter the classroom and are given a lesson by the teacher. Then you return home and study it just as they instructed. Then you return to class to have someone test your knowledge. You have no control over what you are taught and no influence over the time frame. Khan advocated for a flip, in which students receive the instruction in a digital version at home. Then, in the classroom, you put knowledge into practice through interactive exercises. Additionally, because the lesson is digital, you have global access to the top professors and mentors. You also don't have to settle for anybody the school chooses or can afford to employ. Now, what really is microlearning, and how can it help you live a better life? There hasn't been a precise definition. Microlearning is a type of education that consists of bite-sized knowledge, supplied at your leisure with a specific end goal in mind. From a scientific standpoint, microlearning is also supported. People forget about 80% of what they learn in a month, according to statistics. This is known as the forgetting curve, and it explains why cramming a lot of material into one sitting doesn't help you much. This is why microlearning develops on a regular basis. Furthermore, scientific research has repeatedly demonstrated that the brain cannot focus on more than one item at a time. Multitasking is a myth, because your brain can't handle multiple tasks at the same time without losing focus. This is why microlearning is reduced to a single concentrated item at a time. However, giving you a clear and practical example is the greatest method to illustrate microlearning. So there you have it. There is at least one talent that, if taught, will have a significant and immediate impact on you, no matter where you are in life. If you're a writer, it could mean creating more interesting articles. If you're an editor, that could mean crafting more visually appealing stories. If you work in advertising, this could mean developing commercials that convert better. Pause for a moment and reevaluate where you are in life and where you want to be if you can't find that one ability that will immediately impact your life. The curated knowledge section follows, which serves two functions. The first is to silence everything. We live in an information age where there is simply too much information about everything, making it increasingly difficult to obtain useful and reliable data. Even formerly useful information is no longer applicable. Take, for example, Benjamin Graham's best-selling book, The Intelligent Investor. Although it's often regarded as the Bible of value investing, it was published in 1949. It's been a long time since then. If they repeated all they claimed in that book in today's market, the consequences would be drastically different. There are still gold nuggets in there, but you can't rely on them for all your information. Find your own version of Derek's music teacher. Look for folks with a verified and relevant track record to cut down on your time here. In the field of 3D animation, there's a well-known donut tutorial that's available for free on YouTube. It shows you how to make a 3D donut from scratch while going through the 20% of animation skills that you'll need for the other 80% of your job. The second goal is to assist you in breaking down the skill into manageable chunks. Returning to the writing example, a breakdown could contain a strong introduction and captivating hook, a story-driven narrative, and a satisfying conclusion. Choose a time range and a medium once you've determined your expertise and curated knowledge source. The term time frame refers to how much time you will devote to learning during the day. According to recent statistics, people set aside 1% of their week for personal growth, or around 4 minutes. Is it sufficient? That is, if the content is designed in that manner. This leads to the discussion of objectives and stakes. Your objectives should be obvious by now, but for a moment, consider the stakes. Consider this: if you have a flight to catch, you're more likely to get up at 5 a.m. This is known as loss aversion. Losses hit us harder than equal gains, asymmetrically. For example, if someone robs you of $1,000, you'll be considerably more enraged than if they gave you $1,000. Stakes shouldn't have to be negative, but it's worth emphasizing that they do work more effectively when they are. And besides, your brain has a built-in negativity bias, so why not take advantage of it? Stakes are extremely powerful motivators that force you to do things you otherwise would not, so make good use of them. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this has been an enlightening experience for you. And if you want to see more content like this, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you'll be one of the first to see our latest uploads. See you in the next one.